I heard the elephants before I saw them. Their low, trembling rumbles carried across the flooded forest, sounding more like a plea than a warning. When I climbed onto the fallen trunk to get a better view, my heart dropped. For elephants stood stranded on a pile of broken branches and half-submerged roots, the water rising around them like a slow, merciless tide. The smallest one leaned against its mother, its legs shaking so badly I thought it would collapse any second. Cole stepped beside me, breathing hard from the run. He stared at the scene in silence. I didn't need to ask what he was thinking. No regular truck or ATV could reach them through this mess. The flood had swallowed every trail we used. Maya joined us with her binoculars pressed to her face. She spoke quietly, almost to herself. The matriarch is stressed. If the water rises another foot, they'll start to panic. And if they panic, we all knew what could happen. Elephants don't survive in fast, deep water. I wiped the rain off my forehead and looked back down the muddy road we came from. The only thing that could make it through this terrain was the old yellow quarry dump truck parked behind the station. Massive tires, heavy frame, high clearance. It wasn't meant for animals, but it was meant for hellish ground. And this forest, after the storm, was exactly that. Cole must have been thinking the same thing, because he didn't wait for a discussion. He just said, "I'll get the truck," and bolted back through the flooded path. I stayed with Maya and watched the elephants. The matriarch kept nudging the smallest calf with her trunk, trying to keep it standing. The other two crowded close, trembling. They all looked exhausted, like they hadn't slept in days. Maya whispered they won't last long, and we both knew she wasn't exaggerating. The storm hit last night with a force none of us expected. Trees went down, riverbanks collapsed, and parts of the forest we walked every day were now under several feet of brown, churning water. By the time Cole returned, the sky had turned a heavy shade of gray. The dump truck rumbled behind him, its engine echoing through the forest. The sound startled the elephants, but they didn't move from their tiny island. They couldn't. The water was too deep. We waded toward them as far as we could without risking being swept away. From this close, the smallest calf looked even worse. Its sides heaved with each breath. Its eyes were dull, and its trunk dragged weakly across the wet wood. Cole shouted over the engine, "We don't have time. The rain's coming back." And he was right. I could already feel droplets on my arms. I looked at Maya. She met my eyes with the expression I feared most, uncertainty. "Ethan, even if we reach them with the ramp, the smallest one might not stay conscious. If it goes down in the water," she didn't finish. I forced myself to look at the matriarch again. Her gaze locked on ours, steady and desperate. Animals don't speak, but some messages don't need words. We had one chance. Just one. Cole maneuvered the truck closer, its wheels sinking deep into the mud. The water lapped against the metal, rising inch by inch. I felt the ground tremble under my boots. Maya touched my arm. "Ethan," the little one slipping. I looked up. The calf staggered, leaned hard to the side, and nearly fell off the pile of branches. And that's when I knew. If we didn't move now, we'd lose it before we even reached them. Cole parked the dump truck as close as he dared, the wheels sinking into the soft mud with a deep groan. The engine idled loud and steady, echoing through the drowned forest, and all four elephants stiffened at the sound. The matriarch raised her head high, her ears spread wide, her trunk sweeping the air in agitation. The two older calves pressed close to her sides while the smallest struggled to stay upright. Maya moved slowly toward them, keeping her hands open and her voice low. She spoke gently, step by step, easing the tension in her tone. "It's all right. We're here to help. Stay with me." The matriarch responded with a low rumble, uncertain but listening. Cole and I hurried to the back of the truck. The bed was too high for the elephants to climb without help, especially the little one. We needed a ramp, and we needed it immediately. The rain was coming back, the wind shifting through the trees in sharp bursts. We grabbed every long plank we'd strapped to the truck earlier and slammed them onto the ground, creating a rough path upward. Mud swallowed the ends, making the structure unstable. Cole cursed under his breath. "Hold it steady." I pressed my weight onto one side, and he leaned on the other, trying to keep it from twisting. Maya coaxed the matriarch toward the ramp. The huge elephant hesitated at the first step, her foot probing the wood as it groaned under her weight. If she panicked now, everything would collapse. But after another soft call from Maya, she lifted herself onto the planks. The ramp shook violently. I felt the vibration through my knees. Cole whispered, "Don't break, don't break, don't you dare break." Miraculously, it held. The matriarch reached the truck bed, turned, and rumbled to her calves. The two older ones followed her trembling steps, slipping once, but managing to climb in. Then came the smallest. It tried to step onto the planks, but its leg buckled. Its chest hit the mud, and the calf slid sideways off the ramp, landing hard in the thick sludge. The splash was sickening. Maya gasped, and I lunged toward it without thinking. The mud swallowed half its body, and the calf kicked weakly, its trunk flailing. "Easy, easy," I said, though my voice shook. Cole jumped in beside me, both of us sinking nearly to our knees. The calf wasn't heavy like an adult, but it was still a tremendous struggle to lift. Maya knelt at the top of the ramp, reaching out, calling softly to the matriarch, who swung her trunk toward her baby in distress. I wrapped my arms around the calf's chest while Cole pushed from behind. Mud sucked at its legs, refusing to let go. The calf let out a weak cry, and the matriarch answered with a deep, desperate rumble that vibrated through the ground. "Come on," Cole growled. "One more." He shoved with everything he had. The calf's body lurched free, and together we dragged it onto the start of the ramp. "Careful," Maya warned. "Don't rush it." The calf's legs shook violently, but with the matriarch calling it forward, it forced itself up the planks. Cole and I held the side steady as its tiny feet slipped and scrambled. When it finally reached the truck bed, the matriarch immediately wrapped her trunk around it, pulling it close. I exhaled for the first time in what felt like minutes. Cole wiped mud from his face. "That was almost it," he said, and we both knew he meant more than just the fall. We climbed onto the truck to check the space. All four elephants huddled tightly together. The bed creaked under their weight. As I stepped back down, something caught my eye. The left wall of the truck bed, one of the old welded panels, was bent outward. Not much, but enough to worry me. Enough that under the weight of 4 elephants, it might fail. Cole noticed my stare. "Problem?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Maybe, but we don't have a choice." He swallowed hard and climbed into the driver's seat. Rain started falling in slow, heavy drops. And as the engine roared to life, I glanced at the bent panel again, feeling the same cold twist in my stomach as when the smallest calf fell. If that wall gave out on the trail, we'd lose more than time. The first few minutes on the road felt like walking on glass. Cole kept both hands locked on the wheel, guiding the heavy dump truck through a maze of waterlogged ruts and fallen branches. Every bump shook the frame, and the 4 elephants shifted nervously in the back. Their weight made the whole truck sway like a boat in a storm. I rode on the narrow step beside the cab window, keeping one hand on the rail and the other gripping the edge of the bed. I needed to watch them. The matriarch had her trunk wrapped protectively around the smallest calf, while the older 2 braced themselves against the metal walls with unsteady legs. Cole muttered through the open window, "This road's worse than it looked." I glanced ahead. The path was barely visible under the murky water, and the forest looked torn apart, trees snapped in half, roots sticking up like claws. A deep washout cut across the trail a few yards ahead. "Slow down," I said. "If we hit that too hard." "If I slow down, we get stuck," Cole shot back. The engine groaned as he kept the momentum. Water splashed over the tires, and the truck lurched sideways. The elephants rumbled in distress, the smallest letting out a weak bleat. "Easy, easy," I whispered toward them, even though they probably couldn't hear me over the engine. We climbed out of the washout, but the next stretch was worse. A massive tree had fallen across most of the trail. Cole steered around it, forcing the truck onto the softer ground near the edge. The tires sank deep, mud bubbling up around them. The whole truck leaned. "Ethan, hold on," Cole warned. The elephants shifted again, their weight sliding to one side. The matriarch let out a low, warning call, and the 2 older calves pressed tighter against her. The smallest calf stumbled and ended up wedged between her front legs. Cole accelerated just enough to pull us out of the soft patch. The truck snapped back upright, but the sudden movement startled the elephants. They shuffled closer to the left wall, the bent panel. "Cole, keep it smooth," I said. "They're pushing the side." He shot me a quick look. "I'm trying, but if I go too easy, we'll never make it through." Another flooded dip loomed ahead. The water was dark and still, hiding whatever waited beneath. I jumped up to check the angle of the bed and saw the left panel flex slightly as the elephants leaned into it. "Don't go fast through this," I said firmly. Cole exhaled hard but nodded. He eased the truck forward, letting the front wheels sink into the dip. The whole frame shuddered. The elephants braced themselves, trunks reaching for balance, ears twitching with fear. Halfway through the dip, the right rear tire lifted off the ground for a moment, and the truck tilted sharply to the left. The elephants slid. One of the older calves lost its footing completely and slammed into the weak panel. The metal bowed outward with a deep, painful groan. The matriarch roared, trying to steady her family. Cole shouted, "Hold on," as he fought the wheel. I climbed higher on the rail, my heart pounding. The calf pushed harder against the bent metal, trying to stop its fall. Mud and water rushed beneath us, the truck fighting to stay upright. Then I heard it. A sharp, unmistakable crack. The sound of metal giving way. The crack of metal didn't stop. It stretched into a long, grinding groan as the dump truck crawled up the slope ahead. I grabbed the railing and looked over the edge. The left panel bowed outward, trembling under the pressure of the calf leaning against it. The matriarch pressed her weight toward the other side, trying to steady her family, but the incline was too steep. Cole shouted from the cab, "Ethan, I can't stop here. The ground's too soft." He was right. The narrow trail angled upward sharply, the earth beneath us soaked and unstable. Water streamed down the slope like a thin waterfall, dragging mud with it. If the truck stalled here, we'd sink. "Hold it steady," I yelled back, though my voice cracked with panic. The truck climbed higher, fighting the mud. The elephants shifted again, struggling to keep their balance. The older calf that had been pressed against the weak panel tried to move closer to the matriarch, but the tilt of the truck sent it sliding the opposite way. The metal panel bent another inch. Cole cursed. "I'm losing traction." The rear tires spun, spraying mud. The truck lurched sideways. The elephants roared in terror. Then the panel gave out. It didn't explode or snap. It simply folded outward with a heavy, muffled collapse. The calf scrabbled for footing as its body slid through the gap. I lunged instinctively, grabbing at its shoulder and pushing back with everything I had. But a 5-ton animal doesn't reverse direction because a man wants it to. Cole screamed, "Hold on," and slammed the brakes. But the truck still drifted sideways as the earth shifted beneath it. The calf's back leg slipped first, then its entire body tipped over the side. It didn't fall far. The slope beside the road caught it almost immediately, a deep pit of mud and broken branches that cushioned the landing. Still, the impact was brutal. The calf let out a roar, raw, sharp, agonizing. Maya's voice split the air from the other side of the bed. "Ethan, is it alive?" I was already sliding down the side of the truck, mud swallowing my boots as I hit the ground. The calf struggled on its side, one leg twisted unnaturally beneath it. Its trunk flailed weakly, splattering mud across my shirt. "Easy, easy, buddy." I knelt beside its head, my hands shaking. The matriarch reached her trunk over the broken edge of the truck, rumbling so loud it vibrated through my ribs. Cole jumped out of the cab and climbed onto the bed. "We can't stay here. The hill's slipping." He was right. The ground beneath the truck was slowly shifting downward, groaning under the combined weight of the machine and 3 panicked elephants. The rear tires were already sinking. Maya moved to the edge, tears in her eyes. "Ethan, what do we do?" There were only 2 options, and both were terrible. If we stayed to pull the calf out now, the truck could slide off the road completely, taking the other 3 elephants with it. If we moved the truck, the calf would be left injured and alone, but at least the others would survive. Cole shouted, "The tires are burying. We need to move." I looked at the calf. It tried to lift its head toward the matriarch, letting out another broken cry. The sound felt like a knife. I forced myself to stand. "Take them to the rescue point. I'll stay with him." Maya hesitated only a second before nodding. Cole didn't argue. He sprinted back into the cab. The elephants inside the truck roared in protest as the engine revved. The matriarch kept her trunk stretched toward her injured calf until the truck lurched forward and pulled her out of reach. I stayed beside the fallen calf, the mud rising around my knees as the rain began to fall, first soft, then steadier. I pulled my phone from my pocket. No signal. A distant thunder rolled in, and the first cold drops of the next storm hit my face. The rain didn't stop. It came in waves, sometimes soft enough to hear the branches creak, sometimes hard enough to drown out everything. Even the calves labored breathing. I stayed pressed against its side, one hand on its shoulder, trying to keep it calm, trying to convince myself that the water around us wasn't rising as fast as it looked. The mud pit we were in wasn't deep, but the slope above us kept draining water down to where we sat. Every few minutes I checked the edges, watching for any sign that the runoff was turning into a real flow. If it did, we'd have to move, and moving wasn't an option for the calf. Its trunk rested across my leg. Every time thunder cracked, the calf trembled. I whispered the same words again and again. It's all right, you're not alone. The matriarch's call still echoed faintly from the distance, carried through the trees by the wind. I hoped that meant Cole and Maya had gotten her and the other calves safely to the rescue point. Hours passed like that. I tried calling for help again, holding my phone in the air, but the signal icon stayed dead. The temperature dropped as the night deepened, and the calf leaned closer, shivering. I covered its head with my jacket, rubbing its neck to keep its muscles from tightening around the injured leg. At some point, exhaustion pulled me under. I didn't sleep long, maybe a few minutes, but I woke to a sound that made my chest tighten. Engines. I scrambled upright, slipping in the mud. 2 sets of headlights cut through the trees, moving slow and deliberate. A moment later, I heard Maya's voice calling Ethan. "We're here." Relief hit me so hard I nearly dropped back to my knees. Cole jumped out first, carrying a long metal pole. Behind him came 2 of the other rangers from the station with ropes and a portable winch. Maya rushed to the calf, kneeling beside its head. She whispered soft reassurances as she checked the injured leg. It winced at her touch, but she nodded to me. "He's hurt bad, but he's still fighting." We set to work immediately. The mud made every step a struggle, and the slope above us was slick, threatening to give way again. Cole positioned the winch against a sturdy tree, anchoring it with thick straps. The other rangers dug out a shallow path around the calf so we could slide a support under its body. "Easy," Cole said as we rolled the support into place. "Ethan, lift on my count." The calf let out a soft cry when we shifted its weight, but Maya kept her hand on its cheek, grounding it in her voice. 1, 2, lift. The winch pulled the support upward inch by inch. Mud sucked at the calf's legs, refusing to release. It took all of us pushing from below to free it completely. My arms burned, my knees shook, but slowly, painfully, the calf rose out of the pit and onto firmer ground. When we finally reached the top of the slope, I collapsed beside it, covered head to toe in mud. Maya checked its breathing again, then pulled a tarp over its body to keep it warm. Cole squeezed my shoulder. "You kept him alive." That wasn't nothing. We loaded the calf onto a reinforced trailer they'd brought and started the slow drive toward the rescue center. When we arrived, the matriarch was there already, pacing in a large enclosure. The moment she saw her injured calf, she let out a rumble so deep it shook the ground. The calf responded weakly, lifting its trunk toward her. The sound that came from her then wasn't fear anymore. It was relief. The next few hours were a blur. Vets checking the leg, the team washing mud off its body, setting up warming lamps. I stayed nearby, leaning against the fence, watching. Just before sunrise, the calf shifted slightly and managed a small, steady breath that sounded stronger than any from the night before. Maya smiled tiredly. "That's a good sign." I exhaled, feeling the weight in my chest finally loosen. We hadn't avoided everything. We hadn't saved the calf from pain, but all 4 elephants were alive. And sometimes, that's the victory you hold on to. Because what's broken isn't always the end. Sometimes it's the beginning of taking responsibility for what you saved.